How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Infinite Sports. I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, along with Ben Upson, to recap Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals last night between the Knicks and the Pacers. The Knicks extending this series, at least another game, to Game 6, going back to Indiana, winning last night by a final score of 111 to 94. And this was probably the best game I think the Knicks have played all series. Now, you could also make the argument that the Pacers kind of you know, they retreated a little bit in this game, but I thought the Knicks played their best game regardless of that. And both Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns stepped up in this game. You got the Batman and Robin performance out of both of them. And on top of that, Karl Anthony Towns is a little banged up with the knee issue. But from the jump, Jalen Brunson took over this game. He scored the first 6 points of the game, and he ended up finishing with 32 points, 12 of 18 from the field on the day, and he was 4 of 4 from the free throw line. He had a great game. Karl Anthony Towns finished with 24 points. He had 13 rebounds. You got contributions from Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. Didn't have a great shooting night, but he did finish with 11 points. Josh Hart had a double-double. He was all over the glass, 10 rebounds. He finished with 12 points. And the Knicks played some good defense at times in this game. And I wanted to praise Landry Shamet because he played some really good minutes. He was playing some good defense. He had a couple of nice shots in this game, a three-pointer and a two-pointer. He finished with 5 points on the day. And he exited the game to Landry Shamet chants. So the crowd was behind him. You love to see that. Precious Achiuwa had a couple of minutes in this game. He played about 5 minutes in this game. He finished with 2 points because you had Karl Anthony Towns, who was once again in foul trouble. They subbed out Mitchell Robinson for him, so he was on the court, and they had to use him, and he was able to score as well. So, I was very happy with this. At least extend the series. If this was the last game at Madison Square Garden for the season, the fans got to see a good performance out of this team for potentially one last time. Obviously, they don't want that. They want this team to come back for a Game 7. They were chanting Knicks in 7, so we'll see. It does worry me, though, that at the end of the game, you saw Tyrese Halliburton, who did not have a good game at all last night after the triple-double he had in Game 4. I saw him smirking at the end of the game, so I don't like that sign. But the Knicks, they got their backs against the wall. They're going to do everything they can to try to push this game back to Madison Square Garden for a Game 7. So we'll see what happens. But at least they went out, if this was the last game in MSG for the season, they went out with a good performance. Ben, what were your thoughts on this game from last night?
Great statement. The Knicks, with their backs against the wall, did exactly what I think we all expected them to do and what we wanted to see them do. Because this was the first game, honestly, since probably the Pistons series, where you actually kind of felt that the Knicks were going to be, in this game and have a chance to win. I mean, you could also argue Game 1, I guess, but we know how the ending of that one ended up playing out here in the Pacers series. The Knicks got the lead early in the game, never looked back. And although there were a couple times where it went from like 20 to 10 and then back to 18 and down to 12. There were a couple of nervous points where it's like, oh, God, this really is going to happen again. Reggie Miller, Kevin Harlan, and Stan Van Gundy were all joking on the broadcast at the end of the third quarter. And they're like, well, look at the score, guys. This is a 20-point game. And it's like, guys, don't even say that. We don't need that. But the Knicks just had a fantastic all-around effort throughout much of that game last night, especially on the defensive side of the ball. That was the best 48 minutes of defense they've had in the entire series, and probably the best defense they've shown since those first two games in Boston, honestly. I mean, there's just really nothing to look back on in this game and say that it was there was something bad. I do think, Josh Hart, he right now, at least in this series, he's on a roller coaster ride. Like he is his effort and his energy is there, but his shot making it's very inconsistent right now. He's definitely helping this team out on the defensive side of the ball. He's running after rebounds, creating second chance opportunities. But as for his offense, I mean, yeah, he had 12 points and 10 rebounds last night. That's great. A playoff double-double for him is great. Um, but, for his 34 minutes, he definitely was a little bit lackluster offensively. Um, but you know what? Between him and Mitchell Robinson, they are the two guys that create those extra possessions for the Knicks. And that's where their value really gets made up. So I know that Tom Thibodeau made that decision after game 2. I think it's been the right decision in this series. As much as I do love Josh Hart, you can just see that he's been going through it a little bit on the offensive side of the ball. But with him rotating off the bench, it gives him that opportunity to, get a little rest. And I was saying it last night too. I just think in some ways, I feel like, he's tired. I mean, Josh Hart plays 45, 46
Yeah.
minutes during
I
the
mean, even
regular
going back
season.
to last postseason too.
Yeah, he's been like one of the Knicks, one of the Iron Men of this team with Mikal Bridges. So Josh Hart playing 34 minutes off the bench last night, that feels like a light load compared to what he's usually used to. But like I said, 12 points, 10 rebounds is definitely a very good effort. And the Knicks last night, it was evident because they held the lead for so long, but definitely better in the turnover department.
Yeah,
Not so much.
it was still an issue, but I mean, like you were probably going to say, the Pacers turned it over more, 20 times.
Oh yeah, no, that's the thing. The Knicks defense was hounding last night. I mean, there was one possession in the third quarter, I think it was that Mitchell Robinson is just on Miles Turner, like up in his grill, like outside the perimeter. Shot clock is like winding down, and he's got him almost pinned up against the sideline, and he's just arms up in his face, and he forces him to turn it over out of bounds. Like the plays like that are what makes this Knicks team so gritty and so special because they just have that extra gear that they can, tap into physically, and it can help them, get in these games and really find a way to win. And that's what they leaned on last night. That was definitely the bread and butter. I mean, you got to shout out Karl Anthony Towns because after getting his knee bumped into in Game 4, I think it was him and
It was Neesmith, I believe.
Neesmith. Yeah,
Yeah.
I say Neesmith in Game 4. Karl Anthony Towns, 24 points, 13 rebounds, basically, 70, 80% healthy.
He was attacking the basket a lot. I mean, how many and ones did he have yesterday? I think he had at least 3.
And honestly, I think that's the best way to do it if you're Karl Anthony Towns. Find a way to get downhill and just get to the hoop. And, if you can't be the guy who's pushing defensively because of foul trouble, do it on the other end. Make Indiana go after you. And I think that strategy really paid off well last night as well for the Knicks. I mean, Jalen Brunson, 14 first quarter points. The guy set the tone from the beginning.
Yep.
Like, that's
absolutely.
In some ways, after that first quarter, I just had it in the back of my head. I'm like, the Knicks are playing really hard right now. I don't know if they're going to, tolerate walking out of this building with a loss tonight. And sure enough, they didn't. They did it in front of everybody. They had to do what they had to do, which is win a game at the Garden. You can't lose 3 in a row. Madison Square Garden in a best of 7 when you have home court advantage. It's just that's not good enough. It's reminiscent of how the Celtics came out in Game 5 almost, although the Celtics, kind of had a little more throttle than the Knicks did last night.
Yeah.
And then the Celtics came out in Game 6 of the Garden, and the Knicks bounced them. So I'm trying not to think ahead. I hope that the Knicks can certainly put up a better effort in a Game 6 after expending what was quite a bit of energy last night to win that game. The goal right now is just go back to Indiana and find a way to win Saturday night. That's your only goal right now. You can only take it one game at a time in this series. Do I have a little more belief? Absolutely. I mean, if the Knicks win Game 6, I don't even want to imagine what the Garden would look like, in a potential game 7 because it's already been enough theater. I can't even imagine what it would look like in that situation. But this is good for the Knicks. You came home, did your job, do what you had to do. I think Tibbs made the right decisions with rotations and
Yep.
in terms of attacking. They definitely threw a little more at Indiana defensively. And I think after each game in this series, I think the Knicks defense has gotten a little bit better with each game. And it's frustrating to think about how, you collapsed in game 1. And then we haven't recorded since the end of game 3. So game 4 as well, where, the Knicks were just getting outplayed, simply put, by the Pacers in that game. It was a shootout. It was 131-21. The thing that frustrated me the most is that, shout out to Tyrese Halliburton. He was making everything. He was on a different level.
Yeah, he was a polar opposite in that game than he was in this game.
Yeah, I was going to say, and last night in game 5, he was almost a no-show in terms of
what he does that from time to time. So I think that's where the overrated narrative comes in. But still, like, I wouldn't put that label on him at all. Everybody's allowed to have an off game.
No way. You can't do that. And the thing that frustrated me the most, though, is that the Knicks were down, I think, 14 or 16, like, early in the fourth quarter. They cut it to 7, ultimately, by the time we reached the 2-minute mark. And then the thing that really was just annoying, Mikal Bridges took 3 consecutive field goal attempts, in the span of a minute. Missed them all. And I was so lost as to why Bridges was shooting down the stretch in that game when granted, Indiana was definitely going heavy on Brunson at the time, and Cat was already, the knee injury had just happened in the fourth quarter, so he was really kind of feeling it in that fourth quarter. But that was the thing, like, the Knicks had some opportunities in these games that they unfortunately missed. Game 1 is the worst. They should be up 3-2.
And you can also say game 2, they could have won that as well. They only lost that game by 5.
Yeah, and they were right in it again down the stretch of that fourth quarter. They were within 8-10 points the entire way. It's tough. There's just every game in a series you can nitpick and look back on and say, well, what if? But, it's enough with the hypotheticals. Like, as much as I think it is frustrating to think about where the Knicks could be, they're still in this. Yeah. We've said it since the beginning of the series, since the beginning of the playoffs as a whole, Kenny. When this team goes down, they find a way to fight back stronger. And it's one game. They're still down 3-2. They got to go back on the road and get it done. But the Knicks proved to us in Game 5 that they are certainly capable of beating Indiana. They're capable. It's just going to be a matter of can they? And we'll see, because the task they have ahead of them, which would be winning 3 consecutive elimination games, the Knicks haven't done that in a postseason since 2000.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. It's a long time ago. And also last night I think was very telling, because I was saying going in, what kind of energy were they going to come in with? Were they going to go down early and then the Pacers were just going to run all over them? Because I didn't watch a single second of this game, but the final game of the Thunder Timberwolves series, I was keeping up with the score, and I saw that, OKC was blowing out the Timberwolves. So I guess they really just kind of laid down and just said, yeah, we're done. But you could tell very early on, and we both said this, that Jalen Brunson set the tone coming out on that hot start. And like you said, 14 points he finished with in the first quarter. So, and even with some of the people you hear in the media, even Charles Barkley was saying this, the Knicks have too much pride. They're not going to go down in 5 games, right? They're going to push this series back to at least a game 6, and we'll see what happens. And that's exactly what they did. And again, I also give credit to those minutes where you don't have Jalen Brunson on the court and you have some of these guys coming off of the bench and giving you good minutes and playing solid defense. Because the Knicks really, defensively at this times have really struggled in this series. With missing assignments, guys being wide open, and in transition, the Pacers just, push the basketball and there's nobody picking up certain guys, and they have wide open layups. It's like they're cherry picking, basically. Um, so that was improved yesterday. What were your thoughts on the Landry Shamet chance and his performance yesterday and his limited action? Because I mean, since they made those changes, and you alluded to him, I mean, they've paid off, and he's played a role in that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't get to that. Landry Shamet and DeLon Wright actually have been two serviceable options for Tom Thibodeau off the bench. I think it's great that he's finally putting faith in this bench instead of, you know, playing literally 8 guys, which included Deuce, Campaign, um, and Mitch, who was
Mm.
ultimately coming off the bench at the beginning of the series. Like ever since Thibodeau made those changes, it's been a great boost for this team overall. Shamit getting Chance going off the floor was amazing. If you told me Landry Shamit Chance would break out at Madison Square Garden in the Eastern Conference Finals, I would have said you're delusional. I mean, I don't think anybody saw that coming. There was a play too that I remember last night. I think it was earlier in the game. I think like the second quarter that, DeLon Wright had a perfect steal. I think it was off Miles Turner. Went to the other end of the basket and like the ball like hung on the rim for a while and it like just fell right off. That was almost a 10
Yeah.
out of 10 for DeLon Wright. Um, it's those moments like that where it's like if the Knicks can disrupt the Pacers, it's going to make life hard for them. Like that's the thing. When the Knicks are firing on all cylinders on that side of the ball, they usually are the better team. Indiana, I think Indiana is a good defensive team, but they're not great. I mean, they definitely had troubles last night. I mean,
Well, even
Brunson was tough.
go back to Game 4. I mean, the
Yeah.
Pacers had like last night. I think going into like it was like midway through the second quarter. I think they had 50 points. They scored like 43 in the first quarter. The Knicks I think had 36. There was no defense in that first quarter.
No, and I do believe too. Back to Game 5 last night, I think in some ways the Pacers definitely weren't able to push the pace. No pun intended. Like
That's probably
they
like the
usually.
second or third time you've said that since we've been
I
doing these recaps.
it's
I
just the
think I
way.
said it at least once too, so
I think
we're
we
both
we all
guilty
do
of it.
it. But the Pacers love to play that up tempo offense,
Yeah.
and I think the Knicks definitely slowed them down a little bit last night. It was evident, and they didn't feel as comfortable. And like I said, when Halliburton isn't shooting the ball well, that's already a disadvantage for Indiana. Um, is he going to have that down of a game again in Game 6? Probably not.
That's
So
my one of my biggest concerns going into this game 6 is I don't see Halliburton laying two duds in a row. I
yeah,
just don't see
because
it. And
think
especially
about
with
the
them
dynamic.
playing in Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, think about that dynamic shift between games 4 and 5. Game 4, he has 32 points, 12 rebounds, 15 assists. Playoff triple double. That's amazing. Last night, 8 points, 2 of 7 from the field, 0 of 2 from deep, and 6 assists. That's really bad. That's the lowest, excuse me, second lowest scoring game that Halliburton's had in the entire postseason in 15 games. So that just goes to show you that he's been the guy for Indiana. And last night, simply put, Brunson won the battle against Halliburton. That's pretty obvious. And I don't know. Like the Knicks are going to have to really lock down on him in Game 6. I think in some ways, if Halliburton starts getting into a rhythm and shooting it well again at home, which he can certainly do, I think the Knicks are going to have to find a way to start getting some double teams on him and try and guard everybody else, because I just feel like if you look at across the board in this series, yes, the Pacers have the TJ McConnell, the Andrew Nemhard, the
Don't
Miles
forget
Turner,
Benedict Mathurin too. I mean, he's been
and
doing really good
Ben
these last couple
Shepherd.
games.
Ben
Yeah.
Shepherd made
Yep.
a couple
Mhm.
spots again last night.
Yep.
Like out of nowhere, this guy.
Mhm.
Like the Pacers do have that depth, and by the way, on that note, Nemhard as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Nemhard was pretty quiet last night too. He only had 6 points, 3 of 8 from the field.
Yep.
Like the Pacers didn't get those contributions um, from the role players that they usually need. So I think in some ways, if I mean, yeah, Siakam was the only guy in double digits in the starting
I
five
know
last
that's
night.
surprising because usually you see them all in double digits.
That is pretty crazy to think about. I mean, and like I said, if you go like the team by team stats, I mean, the thing about the Knicks too, they killed them in the paint. Plus 26 in the paint. It was 60-34 on paint points last night. I think that's the area that the Knicks have to win, and in Game 6, if you can find a way to create that cushion in the paint and get Karl Anthony Towns to keep attacking in that area, I think it's going to be another hard night for the Pacers. I really do. Now, at the free throw line too last night, interestingly enough, the Knicks went 15 of 22. That's something the Knicks have been a little bit. They've been off a little bit in this series at the free throw line. And granted, a couple of those are Mitchell Robinson because we know how Hack-a-Mitch usually goes. But if you look at Mitchell Robinson's numbers in this series compared to the whole playoffs, Robinson as a whole was shooting like I think 28% across the Detroit and Boston series. And then in this series, he's shooting around like 65%, which for him, that's like, he turned into Steph Curry. He's shooting like 93% now in Steph Curry comparisons.
Yeah,
So,
that is a weird comparison, but
well, yeah, I mean, for his standards,
yeah.
it feels like he's Steph Curry at the line now, shooting
He's
65%.
getting those reps like we talked about.
Well, that's what it is. And you know what? If he's willing to put that work in, which I'm sure he has over the last 2 weeks, that's going to pay off in the long run for you. And that's what's happening for Mitch. But yeah, I mean, simply put, the Pacers fell into the trap with turnovers and some sloppy possessions last night. I mean, yes, the Knicks had their lapses, I think, last night, but they definitely played a much cleaner brand of basketball overall, and I think that's something that they should be really proud of. And like I said, if Landry Shamet and Delon Wright can produce for this team and give them a good 8 to 10 minutes off the bench, that's all this team needs, because you need to have a bridge where you can keep Cat or Brunson off the floor for a bit, either for rest or if Cat gets into foul trouble, and you need
Which
guys
usually does happen.
that can try and fill the void. And I mean, I can see it now. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns had 4 fouls last night through the third quarter again. It's probably going to be a similar situation in Indiana. So the Knicks just have to hang in. They've been hanging in all postseason, and look where it's gotten them. It's gotten them to Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals. And like I said, I really don't want to read too much into it. It's just one game. But it was definitely a great collective effort from everyone last night in front of a raucous crowd at home. You defended home court. Now it's time to go back to Indiana and just see what happens. I mean, who knows? Yeah, definitely. I think if they can put this defensive effort together again in Game 6, I think they can win. I really think they can win
Oh
because
yeah, they definitely can.
they have gotten better. They certainly looked like they made quite a few adjustments last night, and it paid off. It paid off.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. But again, we talk about Halliburton. I think he's going to have a much better game. But also, and you talked about this a little bit, is I just can't help but think about Game 1. Because you win that game, sure, like you'll lose tonight, and then there definitely will be a Game 7. Or you'll lose tomorrow, then there's a Game 7. Game 1, and I said this because I recapped Game 4 the other day, that set the tone for this whole series. That was a game that you had in the bag. And I couldn't help but think the same thing as you at times, down the stretch last night. I kept saying, yeah, this should be enough, right? Nobody's going to go on a heater, and, this game is going to end up being tied. But the game was put away. We didn't have to worry about that. Nobody started shooting uncontrollably and making everything. We didn't have to worry about that. The Pacers really. I mean, they shot 40% last night, but yeah, there was nobody down the stretch that went nuclear. But you win game one, it's a whole different series. Then you lose game six. You could afford it. You go back to the Garden, and you have a chance to win in front of that crowd. Now, I've been saying it. Everybody loves playing at the Garden, even the away teams. So it's really up for grabs there. But you have home field. Game six, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to win in Indiana. But if there's one thing I'll say is, and we both have said this, they've played really well on the road in the postseason. They have. And, they were within striking distance towards the end in game four to come back and, potentially tie the game, but it just never got to that point. They only got within 6 a few times. But, even if they fall down by 20, you could say, hey, they could come back from this. But let's hope that's not the case. We don't want to have to see them overcome a 20-point deficit again. But, yeah, I mean, I agree, though. If they can replicate what they did last night in Game 6, they got a great chance. I mean, Halliburton's going to score a little bit more, but, if you could maybe hold down some of these other guys, because Pascal Siakam's had a good series. Neesmith is a little banged up. Miles Turner's gotten himself into a little bit of foul trouble these last couple of games. He fouled out in the previous game. If you can just play your game, if you could play better defense like you did last night, and obviously one of these guys has to take over for the Knicks too. And fortunately, like I said earlier, you got that Batman and Robin performance last night from Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns, taking over. Yeah, you got a good chance. And the other thing too is limit the turnovers, because that has also been a huge problem throughout the playoffs. And it was a little bit of a problem last night. It got worse as the game went on, but it didn't really get to a point where, it was going to jeopardize the Knicks' chances of winning. But that's another thing too. I thought they took care of the basketball a little bit better. Indiana didn't. We said that. They, turned it over more than the Knicks did, and the Knicks were able to capitalize on that as well. And also, I'm looking for OG Anunoby to, do a little bit better, because these last couple games, I mean, last night he finishes with 11 points, but he really has not been great in recent games, and I'm looking for him to have a bigger performance as well. Because if OG can have a performance like he did in Game 1 against the Celtics, where he had 29 points and he was one of the driving forces in that comeback, then that just makes the Knicks all the more dangerous. So he's another guy I'm looking to really step up in this Game 6 as well. But yeah, look, you said it. They won last night. They went down with the fight at least, even if they lose in Game 6. And Brunson said it after the game. They're going to take it one quarter at a time. So, if they can win this game and get it back to the Garden, we'll see what happens. But at least we know that they're not going to go down without a fight, because they could have been like the Timberwolves and just laid down, and the Pacers would have walked all over them. But that didn't happen. That didn't happen. So we will see. Game 6 is tomorrow. And, same time, could be potentially the last game that TNT broadcast. They were kind of saying their farewells yesterday before the game. But they held that off for at least another one. And I know everybody on social media is saying, hey, just push it to a Game 7, because we're not ready to say goodbye to TNT yet. So, yeah, I'm hoping for that as well. Not just for the Knicks, but for that. Yeah, no, we'll have to see.
Yeah, and I think there's one other note too about the Knicks offense last night that I personally noticed. Even the TNT crew was picking up on this at the half. Not only was this their best defensive effort of the series, but especially in that first half, the Knicks were in a really good rhythm offensively from the field overall. And I think what was really good to see is that the Knicks, I think a lot of teams fall victim to this in the modern NBA. The three ball is the shot, like every time, it feels like. teams push it down the floor in transition, and instead of driving in for what would probably be an easy layup, they kick out for a corner three or an open three somewhere on the perimeter. The Knicks were pretty smart last night because, like I said, they were plus 26 by the end of the night in the paint, 60 paint points. And they weren't settling for the three ball. And the TNT crew picked up on this as well. Like, they really used their basketball IQ last night because they were looking for the right shot in the right moment instead of reverting back to what is, oh, hurry up, let's go. Transition kick out for a three. You don't – the Celtics had an illness with that because they are that team. The
and
Knicks,
that works very well for them too.
it does. And I'm not dissing the teams that do it. I mean, it could certainly work for the Pacers too because they shoot the three ball generally well for the most part. Last night, they were 10 of 30, not so much. But, yeah, that was one thing I specifically noticed as well with the Knicks offense last night. I think that's what it's all about. Valuing possessions is a big deal, I think, in the playoffs as a whole. It's one thing in the regular season where it's like, okay, let's shoot up 43s tonight and see what happens. Every team does not try that hard, in my honest opinion, in the regular season. So I think when you get to the playoffs, if you have the character and the mold of, what you want your system to look like, and I think everybody on this Knicks roster knows what Tibbs' system is and what they want to do. They made those adjustments. And they definitely were relatively patient last night and waited for the best opportunities to create offensively. And that's something that Jalen Brunson always does. And he excelled at last night. And like I said, Cat getting downhill and barreling through contact with a slightly bum knee, it's really impressive. It really is. The Knicks should be feeling very good about that effort last night. And they can walk away win or loss in this series, and say that they defended home court and at least extended the series one more day. Now, like I said, maybe they'll extend it another day.
That would be nice.
If they won 6, that'd be great. But for right now, it's one win at home. And now you got to slay the dragon in Indiana.
Yeah, 100%. We can only hope. We can only hope. So last couple of minutes here. We'll talk about it briefly. So there's another big series this weekend in baseball. Now, it's a regular season series. It's not a playoff series, but it is a World Series rematch between the Yankees and the Dodgers. I'll have a full preview later today coming out. But I wanted to get Ben some thoughts on that before we wrap up here. What are you looking for in this series with this World Series rematch that we have?
Well, first of all, the fact that we get Mets Dodgers and Yankees Dodgers 3 times in a span of, I think, 13 days, that's pretty impressive. I mean, like when we get 3 series of this caliber in, what is really just the beginning phase of, summer, the dog days of baseball, you've all heard it before. It's very interesting because this is the first real – I always say, I've said it forever. Now that we've hit Memorial Day to me is the real first checkpoint of baseball where it's like, okay, you've warmed up, you've eased into your season. Now it's time to hit the ground running. This is where between now and, Labor Day, that's really the heart of the season that, you got to be – getting into your groove. And if you really want to be in a good spot come postseason time, start winning games. Well, all of a sudden, the Yankees have won 5 in a row. They've won 16 of their last 20. All of a sudden, they're looking really hot, and they've got the biggest division lead in all of baseball. And here they go against the NL West leading Dodgers, who are in a more, I'd say, competitive division than they probably anticipated going into the season. I mean, because both the Padres and the Giants are within 3 games of them as we head into play today. I mean, you look at the matchups for the weekend. I mean, obviously, Max Fried going tonight against Tony Gonsolin. Saturday night, Will Warren, Landon Knack, and then Sunday we don't know who the Yankees are putting out there yet, but Yamamoto is listed as the starter. I hate that we have no local broadcasts. I mean, it's Apple TV Plus, Fox, and ESPN, but
I know. At
big
least
big
last year when they played at Yankee Stadium, they had it on Apple TV, but they also had the local broadcasters doing the games as well, which I don't know why they couldn't do that. I ended up caving and buying or renewing our Apple TV subscription just so we were able to watch the game tonight. So otherwise I was going to listen to it, but I want to watch this game. It's a big series.
I agree. And I'm just excited. I'm excited to see how these two match up. I mean, anytime the Yankees and the Dodgers get together right now, I mean, this is like some of the best in baseball. And obviously, the Yankees coming off that bizarre, I think it was 1-0 game on Wednesday night.
Yep.
Which ended with a very, very favorable strike 3 call.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, I think
I said it over and over again. I'm like, that is a terrible call, but we'll take it.
I think the umps had a steak dinner planned at the local pub.
And you know what's funny? That was the Yankees. I think it was their third 1-0 victory of the season. Because they did it against the Rangers, they did it against the Rays as well. I mean, I've never seen a team win so many 1-0 games before. But they've been doing it.
Yeah, it's really impressive. And I mean, meanwhile, you look on the other side, something that's been a big topic as well in this division about how the Red Sox got walked off back-to-back days against the Brewers, and they have like 15 one-run losses. So
yeah,
where these teams win,
their bullpen has not been good. Their bullpen has not been good.
So
Yankees
on that
will be
note,
seeing them next week.
That's right, for the first time this year. All right, it's June and it's been taking this long.
I will be there. I actually will be at one of those games next Friday. So
next Friday.
Looking forward to that. Yeah. So I saw the Mets a couple weeks ago, and now I'm seeing the Red Sox. So I'm excited.
That's a fun time. And hey, let's not forget next Saturday, a little bit of a later start for that game on Fox, because we got the horses going up at the Belmont Stakes.
Oh, okay. All right. Good little
final leg of Triple Crown.
Good little promo in there.
But it's not at Belmont. It's at Saratoga, of course, once again, while the renovations continue at Belmont. So it'll be back on the island next year, but still in upstate New York. So have a fun time with that. But yeah, Yankees, Red Sox, and some horses next weekend. But yeah, overall, I'm just curious to see in this series, who's going to win out in the battle of the heavyweights, because both of these lineups are just, stacked top to bottom. They really are. I mean, especially the Yankees lineup is just carrying it at the top. And I mean, it's Judge versus Ohtani. These are the two best players in baseball. How could you not want to see these two guys get on a baseball field together? This is like, I'm trying to compare it to like a rivalry, like of two elite players it's been a while that we've seen players of this caliber get on the field against each other. I mean, this is, two division leaders, two teams that have World Series aspirations. Who the heck knows? Maybe we'll be coming back here this October again with another World Series on the line. Maybe.
Hey, look, we got a repeat of the Stanley Cup from last year.
Things are repeating. It's very.
How about that? Me bringing up hockey. How about that? You didn't expect that.
That is pretty good. I have to admit, Panthers Oilers should be a great Stanley Cup final rematch. Actually, on that note, are you aware of the Corey Perry curse?
I am not.
Yeah. So Corey Perry, who's a 40-year-old journeyman now on the Edmonton Oilers, has actually been playing well these last two games in the Dallas Stars series. 2 goals and an assist. He has lost in 4 of the last 5 Stanley Cup finals.
And the Oilers lost last year, so that's
right. He lost in 2020 with the Dallas Stars to the Tampa Bay Lightning. He lost in 2021 with the Montreal Canadiens, also to the Tampa Bay Lightning. He lost in 2022 with the Tampa Bay Lightning to the Colorado Avalanche. And then last year in 2024, loses with the Edmonton Oilers to the Florida Panthers. So that means, is he going to lose 5 out of 6? this year, maybe.
We'll see.
And ironically, Corey Perry does have a Stanley Cup when he won it with Anaheim in 2007 as a 22-year-old. That was his second NHL season. Anyways, going off the rails. Yeah, and Max Fried, what else there's to say about him? 7-0 with a 1.29 ERA. He's been the standard of efficiency right now in this Yankees staff. While Garrett Cole is out for the season with the Tommy John and Luis Heel. Luis Heel's not too far away, right?
I think they said he could be back in July, so he's still a little bit away.
So,
but they could be getting Stanton and Jazz Chisholm back soon.
Yeah, and that's the thing. This is the crazy thing to think about. The Yankees are 35-20 without those guys.
Mm-hmm.
This lineup is going to look completely different when those guys come back into it. And as much as it's great to see Jorbit Vivas and JC Escara and all these other guys rotating, and it's like, okay, we need our depth back. But this is the thing about baseball. It's a long season, and you can allow these guys to slot in to fill injury time and all that. So, like I said, this is going to be fun, Kenny. I know I've been blah, 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 so I'll let you shed some light on this World Series rematch.
Yeah, no, I am excited for it. I think they do have some advantages with the pitching in this series, but that also has to do with the fact that the Dodgers have a lot of injuries with their pitchers. They have, I think right now it's still at least 14 pitchers, not just with their rotation, but with their bullpen as well. Kirby Yates is hurt. They also have who else? Michael Kopech is hurt as well. They got a handful of guys right now that are injured. So
isn't Glasnow hurt too?
Yeah, but that's also in the rotation. That's also in the rotation. So Glasnow's hurt. Blake Snell is hurt. I mean, they got a lot of guys that are hurt right now. So that's why when you have, on social media, they have, they're saying, oh, the Yankees aren't playing the Dodgers at full strength. And yeah, I get it. The Dodgers are going to be a completely different team. They just traded for Edwin Diaz's brother. They added him to the bullpen because of all the issues that they have right now. So, yeah, I mean, both teams aren't at full strength. And you know what? If they play again in October, then, it'll be different. But, yeah, right now they got a ton of injuries there themselves, but the lineup's still intact. You still got Freddie Freeman, you still got Mookie Betts, and you still have Ohtani. And Teoscar Hernandez, of course, who is a Yankee killer in his own right, going back to his Blue Jays days. So I do think the Yankees can win this series, and we'll see who they end up listing as a starter on Sunday. It's either going to be Ryan Yarbrough or Carlos Rodon. I'm hoping it's Rodon because, then, I like how he's been pitching as of late. And Yamamoto's been one of the best pitchers in baseball along with Rodon, so that would be a good pitching matchup. And Yarbrough's been good, but I would like to see, the Yankees have, two of their best starters going in this series. But we'll see what happens. It starts on Apple TV tonight, so looking forward to that and seeing all the hit probabilities in the bottom right-hand corner that they like to have. And then game is on Fox. So technically it will be a local game for the Dodgers because Joe Davis is probably doing the game. So, yeah, so one of the local broadcasters will be doing the game. And then Sunday, David Cohn will be doing the game on Sunday. So there you go. Right?
It evens out.
Yeah, it evens out. Even though he's not doing play-by-play, but you know what? Hey, it's technically the local broadcasters are still doing the games.
Yeah, and, ESPN Classic. The last 3 weeks on Sunday Night Baseball, they have Mets-Yankees, Mets-Dodgers, and now Yankees-Dodgers. That's real original,
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, listen, at least they don't have Yankees-Red Sox.
Yeah, that I don't know if Yankees-Red Sox will be on Sunday Night Baseball this year. I don't know. It might be later in the year.
I think it's fine. I think it's fine because you know what? The juice is not there anymore. It's not. It's not there.
I think it's fine too. And, obviously, you know what, though? Showcasing these games on ESPN is a good idea because baseball needs the exposure for these games. Mm-hmm. They do. So it is important. So it's, I don't know what they got next week. Maybe it'll be Cardinals, Tigers. I don't know. Could be anything.
I don't know either. But I think that's pretty much it. So a little bit of a World Series rematch preview as well. So tomorrow, The Knicks will be taking on the Pacers in Game 6, and whatever happens between now and then, we'll recap it on Monday. And maybe it'll be a potential recap preview for Game 7, maybe on Monday, potentially. But we'll have to see. And yeah, no, it's a big series with the Yankees and the Dodgers. Any final remarks, Ben?
Well, I'll just say this for the Knicks, just go out there and put together a complete 48 minutes like you did in Game 5. That's the key. That's what it is. And here we are in a must-win game yet again, and it's like backs against the wall. How do you want to be viewed? How do you want to be viewed in this Game 6? And what a weekend, because like I said, Yankees, Dodgers, and the Knicks are still in the Eastern Conference Finals. Let's see who will be on a plane to New York on Monday. Who's going to come back to New York on Monday with better implications, the Yankees or the Knicks? That's going to be the question.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Well, hopefully it's the Knicks. I mean, if the Yankees lose this series, it is what it is. If the Knicks lose, their season is over. So, the Yankees still have, 60 plus games
100
left.
million games.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So we'll see what happens, but hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to like and comment and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate it. If you want to listen to us, we're also wherever you get your podcasts as well. And yeah, so until next time, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder along with Ben Upson signing off. Have a good one. Have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.